Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense here on YouTube. Today we're going to talk about a special category of really interesting person called the First Amendment Auditor. Stay tuned. The First Amendment to the Constitution gives us a number of rights. One of those rights is the ability to enjoy free speech. We can say what we think. We can talk about what we believe. We can explain to others why we hold certain political views. It's a pretty sacred right, and one that has been strenuously protected by the Supreme Court ever since the founding. And although there are some limits on the doctrine of free speech, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, for example. Generally speaking, the courts view the remedy for bad speech, in other words, speech that is like hate speech, to be more speech that shows up the ignorance in that kind of behavior. And then another right we have under the First Amendment is the right to petition the government for redress of grievances, which means we can go to the government and say, hey, you're taxing us to death. And they may not necessarily have to listen, but we have the right to complain. It's an important right because at the founding, the citizens felt that they did not have that right with regard to merry old England. And then finally, the third right that's more or less transparent in the First Amendment is the right to freedom of the press. And that right has been extended to include a doctrine called no prior restraint, such that even if somebody's going to disclose secrets and print them in the newspaper, generally speaking, a court will not prevent that. It'll order a remedy for it after the fact, perhaps, but it will not engage in prior restraint of free speech. None of these rights are particularly difficult to understand. And as a result, most of us understand quite well what the First Amendment covers and what it doesn't. The Constitution puts limits, or I should say case law puts limits on things like threats, making terroristic threats against people, and that type of thing. But generally speaking, there is not a lot of effort on the part of the government, either state or federal, to limit our rights to free speech. That's why I find it so amazing that someone feels the need to do a First Amendment audit. All right, now first of all, who appointed these folks as First Amendment auditors? I mean, did some government agency tell them, hey, go audit these places and find out if they're upholding the First Amendment? Well, of course not. These are people who want to make content for YouTube. And the way that they make content for YouTube is to go out and get arrested. And the way they get arrested is by trumpeting this belief that they have some unfettered right to harass and annoy people with a camera. To give you an idea, take a look at this clip.
Yeah, they're approaching me. I fear for my safety. We going to get it poppin'. Poppin', poppin', stick it, stick it. Oh my God!
Hello.
All right, mister. How can I help you?
What did you say your name was again?
Abad.
Abad.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to speak with some people here.
Okay.
You're screaming and yelling.
Oh no, I'm live. I'm talking.
Listen, and it's making it difficult for me.
Oh no, I'm talking. I'm narrating.
Abad, it's making
Okay.
it difficult for
Yeah.
me. So I'm going to ask you to stop yelling, stop talking so I can conduct my investigation.
Wait, are you violating my civil rights?
If you keep causing a peace disturbance, I'm going to have to arrest you. Do you understand?
Okay. I need your supervisor.
Do you
please.
understand?
I need your supervisor.
Is that a yes,
Yes.
Abad?
Yes.
Thank you.
I need your supervisor.
Okay. Being uncooperative, you don't want to give
No.
me. Don't eat for your.
Oh, my bad.
Don't.
Well, as you can see, it's pretty obvious that there is a big difference between doing actual journalism, asking questions, doing a story, in other words, putting something together that you could put on YouTube and call problems at the Opelika, Alabama post office, and just sticking a camera in someone's face to be seeing what kind of reaction you get from that person by sticking a camera in their face. Well, the law recognizes a number of rights, and one of the rights that it recognizes with regard to personal property and real property is your right to exclude. If you own a truck, you have the right to say who gets in the truck and who gets out of the truck. Similarly, if you own a land or building, you have the right to say who comes in the building and who has to leave the building. Now, First Amendment auditors are perplexed by this concept of private property. They believe that the post office belongs to them. Apparently, they think if they wanted to lay out a sleeping bag in there, they could just snooze all day if they wanted. But that's not what the First Amendment allows you to do. Just because you have the First Amendment right to go in and film things, and to a certain extent you do, as long as you're not interfering with operations and as long as you comply with the federal regulations, the government has no problem with you filming operations. What it has a problem with you doing is interfering with the operation of something like a post office or a courthouse or a city hall. Any of those kinds of things produce really serious problems for the local government. It means that police officers have to respond, and if they're out there trying to get some crazy First Amendment auditor out of the building, they aren't out there protecting and serving the public at large, trying to keep people safe, that sort of thing. So it puts a drain on government resources, and it's just stupid. But the bottom line is the government has the right to ask you to leave the post office. And even though it's government property, which for some reason the First Amendment auditor thinks of as public property, meaning the public has an unfettered right of access to that, it doesn't. It's government property, and the government owns it, and the government gets to control who comes in, who goes out, who does what in it. It isn't rocket science. It's just the way the world works. Still, most of these First Amendment auditors will insist that they have this unfettered right to go in and film as much as they want. And when the police show up, they will threaten them with all kinds of lawsuits about being unfairly removed from the property. They'll even say something like, "You can't solicit a trespass." Well, to a certain extent, that's true. The police officer can't go into the building and say, "Hey, Mr. Postmaster, that guy out there is really annoying me. Would you allow me to trespass him?" He can't do that because that is soliciting a trespass. But he can go in and say, "Hey, do you want the crazy guy with the purple hair off of government property?" And if the postmaster or the county administrator says, "Yes, get him off of here," that's not soliciting a trespass. That is simply acting on the wishes of the property owner. And what happens is these people get arrested. They get taken to court. A lot of times they'll get a fine. A lot of times they will get a small jail sentence, 5 or 10 days in the county jail. They get these things, and you would think that that would deter them. But in fact, it does not. Because there are a bunch of low IQ people who enjoy watching these idiots harass other people. I assume that's because they don't have the testicular fortitude to go out and harass people on their own, so they like watching this kind of thing on YouTube. It's really not the kind of thing that anybody ought to take pleasure in. So what do you do when you come up against a First Amendment auditor in your town where you've got somebody, maybe you're sitting at the health department waiting to get your COVID shot, and somebody comes up and sticks a camera in your face? What do? Well, you ask them to stop, and if they don't ask them to stop, you file a complaint with the people who run the building, and then you stay and you wait for the police and you be a good witness. Here's what you don't do. You don't engage with them. You don't shout at them. You don't push them out of the building on your own, because if you do that, you've committed assault. The police have the power to do that, and the police will come and will eventually take care of nuisances like this. But it isn't up to you individually to do that. So just work through the system and ignore them. You also have to understand that people who have this pathetic need for attention, what I would call the attention-seeking disorder, they have this need to be the center of attention. And even if it's bad attention, it's attention. And they like that. So what you have to do when you're dealing with these people is ignore them. You just have to act like they're not there. Pull up your cell phone, look at your cell phone. Act as if this annoying little insect that is sticking a camera in your face is not something that's worth your time of day. Okay? That's all you have to do to pretty much deflate these people. But whatever you do, don't engage, because if you say something to them, they'll try to engage you in a conversation, and that just keeps the string of stupidity going. Somebody once told me long ago that you should never get into an argument with a bloomin' idiot, because somebody might walk by and not be able to tell which one of you is the bloomin' idiot. So I take that advice to heart, and I try never to engage with people who are just, on the very thin side of the bell curve of normal. In other words, they're out there at about the 15th standard deviation, if you want to get right to it. So my friends, that's the story of First Amendment auditors. I'm sure I have not done a comprehensive job on this. There are lots of videos on the channel Schrodinger's Cat. He has a lot of these folks getting arrested, and I think you would find that to be an interesting choice to go look at. So that's it, guys. I hope you found this interesting or thought-provoking or maybe just a little bit humorous. If you have, I'd love it if you'd smash that like button for me. And if you haven't already, go over here and press the subscribe icon so that you can be notified anytime we release a video here on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and have a terrific day. I'll catch you on here next time.